Okay. Oh my goodness. I just realized I had the audio turned off. Oh my God. You guys are probably thinking like, what the heck is up with this guy? All right, let me back up. So welcome everybody. Sorry I had the audio turned off. Gosh, I'm still getting used to this whole live stream thing. All right. So anyway, so what I'm going to do today is go through my toolkit. Briefly recapping what I was babbling on about before when you couldn't hear me was that one is I made a video about my toolkit way back in like 2011 or 12 or something. Then I made another one again like in 2015. Well, so since it's been about 8 years, I think a lot of things that are in my toolkit today have changed quite a bit. Somebody made a comment on one of those old videos, and I realized, oh, hey, it's probably a good time to revisit that. So anyway, so like I just showed you a second ago, this is my big old toolkit. It's a ruggedized backpack. It's got a ton of stuff in it. Weighs about probably a good 30, maybe 40 pounds. I don't know. And I'm just gonna take some things out. I'm gonna move the camera so you can see me, or I can see like my desktop, and I'll just kind of lay the tools out on there. And I'll just try to spend about 15, 30 seconds on each one. And I'll try to keep an eye on the chat. If there's comments or questions, we'll see what we can do. But to keep it, because I've got so many tools to keep it moving, I got to kind of keep going through them, because if I elaborated on every one, we'd be here for a good few hours. All right, let me move the camera here. So try not to make you seasick here. I'm going to take and tip it down onto the desktop. Get coffee cup out of the way there. Okay. All right, so let's get started. All right, so let's dig into the tool bag and see what we have. Probably something I've used and touch almost every single thing I work on is my snips. Now we call them snips. You could formally call them electrician scissors if you wanted to. I have found through my own experience that a lot of your old school field guys call these snips, and if you call them scissors, they kind of giggle at you. So anyway, but these are especially made for cutting through really. They're made for cut through wire. This one has like an extra kind of like leverage, like the handle's extra long so that you have the leverage to kind of cut through something really thick, like a 25 pair. It's even got like a little notch just for that. Anyway, so if you're in this business, snips are a must. Trying to get by with a knife or regular scissors is just going to be kind of a big waste of time. Let's see what else I've got. And I'm kind of trying to focus on what's like my top 10. So snips would definitely be in my top 10. Another one is my tone and probe set. So what a tone and probe set is, it's usually a pair. It's a set of tools that are usually used as a pair. And this little thing right here is called the toner. And then this thing right here is called the probe. And so what happens is this thing is like an RF noise generator. And it's got like little clips that you use to clip onto wires or to 66 block. And so when it's activated, it makes like a little tone. And then this thing listens for it. And it's kind of a proximity thing. The farther you are, the softer it is, and the closer you get, the louder it gets. All right, so that's used for identifying wires. I've done probably at least 2 or 3 videos of me using it for various things. So that's toner and probe. That's absolutely a must. Definitely would put that in my top 10. All right, let's see. Another one that's pretty important to me when I'm in the field is a reliable screwdriver. Okay. And you can have multiple screwdrivers if you want, but for space and convenience sake, I have these kind where you just flip them like that. You can kind of, switch back and forth between Phillips and flat. You got kind of like, I guess what you call like a medium size and medium size flat. And then there's a smaller one, but they have a neat little extra function that's kind of a side effect of the way this is designed, is that you can take this whole shank out and you can put it in a drill, or you can just take the individual bits out and put them in a drill. Also, because of the way these are they got the hex what do you call it, formation here. I have like a little hex wrench I can put on it, and I can use that for leverage. So anyway, so that's a Klein. So yeah, I reach for that all the time. Definitely my top 10. All right, now let me see if I can find my punch tool. Okay, so the punch tool, I have 2 of them. One is fairly new, and one has been through the war. And what a punch tool is it's used for terminating wires either onto an RJ45 keystone jack or onto a panel. And there's 110 style, And then there's also, let's see, there's 110, that's cut and non-cut. And then there's also what's called a 66 blade. And the 66 blade is not for data, it's for 66 blocks, usually used for voice or for landlines or modem lines and things like that. So anyway, so that's punch tool, definitely in my top 10. Let's see. Let's go with, oh, I know. So this actually doesn't reside in my toolkit. It resides on my belt. And that is this Leatherman tool. Now, this one's pretty old. I've had this now since 1997. So it's coming up on going to be 30 years, well, 20, at least 25 years old. And, if you're not familiar with the Leatherman tool, it's basically, it's a multi-tool. I mean, these have been around long enough. Most people know what a multi-tool is, but I reach for this thing all the time. I use the pliers all the time. I probably use the Phillips head a lot. I use the knife, but I tell you what else I use a lot is when I'm in the field. A lot of times you have to open boxes, and the serrated blade is really great for opening boxes. So a Leatherman is definitely, not even when I go on jobs, but sometimes if it's just a casual Saturday and I'm just leaving the house, a lot of times I put this on my belt loop anyway. So, like I said, it doesn't reside in my tool bag, but it's definitely in my top 10. Let's see what else I've got that I would put in my top 10. Oh, I know. Let me find my crimper tool. Where's my crimper tool? There's a lot of stuff in here. Here it is. Here's my crimper tool. So this is my crimper tool. You've probably seen some videos I've made with this where I did some terminating the RJ45 plugs. So there's a spot to terminate RJ45. There's a spot to terminate RJ11. So RJ11 is the like the phone style. It's like a smaller, you get your RJ45 plastic plug, and then you've got a smaller one that's usually used for phone and voice. That's what that one does. Anyway, so that's definitely in my top 10. I reach for that a lot. Another one is my cable testing tool. And it comes as a pair, kind of like the toner and the probe. In fact, in some ways, it kind of has a similar kind of function. And what it does is it tests the cable for basic connectivity and continuity. What happens is you put this on one side, turn it on, go to the other side, and then there's like a little lighted map. And I've done a video demonstrating this. But it just tells you, if you get all greens, and that means that there is electrical continuity all through 8 pairs of your network wire. And it doesn't tell you whether it's Cat 5 or Cat 6, so it's not really like a certifier. But I find a lot of times when I'm troubleshooting, just knowing whether I have connectivity or not is enough, is a good starting point. So I definitely use this guy a lot. Now, if it got continuity and I've checked the usual things, in fact, I wrote an article about this recently. Then I might break out the certifier. Generally, if a cable's installed and it's certified to be a Cat 6 cable, it usually stays a Cat 6 cable. They don't usually degrade over time unless somebody's done something that damaged the individual data jack. Let's see. Did I reach 10 yet? I don't think I reached 10 yet. Let's see, what else is a good top 10? When I was doing a lot of voice work, my good old trusty test set. Now I actually have a better one of these. It's a is it a Fluke? I think it's a Fluke, or it's a Harris or something like that. But anyway, but I use this one because it's a little more ruggedized, I guess. The Fluke's maybe a little tiny little bit more delicate. But this is just basic. All you're doing really is just tip and ring. So if you're testing voice, if you work on voice, you know what I'm talking about, where you take and you connect these 2 leads to the tip and ring of a voice circuit, and then you basically flip on the little switch to find out whether you got dial tone or not. Okay. And there's a couple of things you could do it, but I won't elaborate because remember I said I was going to try to keep things kind of brief so we can keep it moving. Let's see. Top 10. Probably forgetting something, but let me go ahead and move to something else that I do use frequently, but I don't know if I'd put it in my top 10. And that is my assorted wrenches set. Now you might be kind of thinking like, you do voice and data. Why in the world would you need it? You would be surprised how often things come up where you actually have to break out some wrenches. Usually because you're trying to open a box or maybe there's something about a network cabinet that needs to be fixed, or it's an access thing. Sometimes you have to take something apart. So I keep these are, I think, like kind of medium size down to kind of like 5/16. And this is a mix of metric and English. And of course, when all else fails, I've got the adjustables. So and then I also, I'm only showing you my tool pack. When I go on a job, like for instance, tomorrow I'm going on a job and I will have a lot of other things that I put in the truck, things that are related to like cable management or cable pulling. And those won't go in my pack sometimes. Those will just be like in a separate box. Oh, here's another one. This is probably a top 10. And that's my keyhole saw or drywall saw. So I use that a lot when I'm putting in jacks. So if you've seen my videos of installing network, I've got two of them. One is about how to install a network jack, and another one is about something wiring a small office or something like that. And I think I showed that in this one. So anyway, but that's just a saw just for making the holes in the drywall. So it works in a way that a regular saw wouldn't. So it's kind of, and don't try to cut drywall with a knife. That's that's a bad experience. Let's see. I think I might find another top 10 in here somewhere. I tell you something get I do a lot is drilling. So I got assorted drill bits. I know they look kind of rough, but it's what works for me. I actually just bought a new set recently, but I didn't put it in my tool bag yet. But when you're doing when you take drill bits with you, especially into the field, it's important that they be rated for steel. So see how these gold colored ones, they're rated for steel as opposed to just only wood. That's because a lot of times when you're drilling in this line of business, you're oftentimes drilling through steel or aluminum. So assorted drill bits, definitely a must. Let's see. Oh, here's one. Now, I don't use this as much anymore, but when I was younger or newer in the field, I was usually insecure about understanding where the studs were in the wall. So before I would cut into a wall, this thing is like, it's a stud finder. Basically, you push it in and you go along the wall, and if it finds a stud, the lights light up, and if it finds a spot where there's nothing behind the drywall, then the lights go down. So it's just a stud finder. I mean, people use these all the time for things other than data work. They use them for, even homeowners use these before you make a hole in a wall. But I used to use that a lot. I've found now that over time I've gotten better at just kind of knowing where the studs are. So it's not as important anymore. Let's see, what else? Oh, this is something I probably use a lot. Yeah. Okay, people laugh at me when I talk about this. And I've had people make fun of me on my videos for this. This is my homemade hole puncher. And I've had people say things like, oh, haha, that's so silly. Why don't you just use a drill? Well, you know what? That's great when you're on 11, you're 11 feet up in the air on a ladder and you just need to make a quick hole in something and your drill is in your truck, which is outside of the mall in the back of the parking lot. So this is something I can reach for, that I can take and I can push into drywall and just kind of spin it, and it makes a quick hole. Or sometimes even if I need to pierce what they call the header on a wall, like you're up above in the ceiling, and you need to, sometimes I just put this on top of the tin header and just bang it with a hammer, get a quick hole, and then just kind of wiggle it a little bit too. So you can laugh if you want, but I think what a lot of my critics don't understand when they see me, doing something that they would consider to be a lazy shortcut, is that this business is largely driven on small margins, meaning that by the time a job gets to you, you have so many middlemen between the original customer and by the time you actually get the job, everyone's taking these little bites out of the margin. So the customer's getting charged maybe $200 an hour, but maybe you're getting paid $50 an hour. And so time is everything. Time is everything. And so if you can do something to quickly, solve a problem, it's motivated by market forces. All right, this is probably maybe not a top 10, but do use it occasionally. Sometimes I just got really large things that I need to wrestle with, cut. So these are electrician's pliers. And I certainly wouldn't, well, I don't want to lie. I have cut electrical wires with these. I'll tell you why. I got in a situation where I was doing these payphone removals. And what would happen oftentimes is that I would have to arrive at a business location to remove a payphone outside of outside like a store or something, and the people weren't in the store, so there was no one I could contact to get access to the electrical panel. So unfortunately, what I would have to do in order to complete the assignment was I would have to put on a pair of gloves, a good pair of gloves, and I would literally cut the electrical wire, which would short it out, which would trip the breaker, and then now the electrical wire was dead. Then of course I could put wire nuts on it, and then I could remove my payphone and go on. Then usually what I would do is turn around and leave a note or call the store when they open and say, hey, by the way, one of your breakers might be out. So I know, sounds unprofessional, but that's field work for you. Okay, here's another one that don't use a ton, but is still pretty helpful. It's a banjo. So a banjo is a tool that you use to plug into a wall outlet, and then you connect either a toner or maybe that voice test set I just had a minute ago. And then I would take, and you could like test for dial tone, or you could use the toner to, basically it's a way of kind of breaking out the individual pairs that are inside the wall outlet into, more accessible physical metal contacts that you can reach. And banjos come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes. This is an RJ11 one. I've got RJ45 one. So banjos are nice when you need to access individual pairs. So, all right. I got another one of these. And I showed the wrenches earlier, but these are this is just kind of a miscellaneous socket set. All right. So just like I had the wrenches, I also have socket set because, believe it or not, sometimes you just have to do kind of like mechanical work sometimes. And then this thing's kind of cute. It's a little like a little mini socket wrench, if you will. And then you just kind of slide the little bits in there, which is pretty handy. All right. Now here's something I just recently reviewed. I haven't really used it much yet, but basically it's a wire stripper. You put your cable in here, and then you adjust well, there's a blade. There's a blade right in there, but you can see it like a razor blade in there. And then what you do is you adjust the depth with this knob right here. You put your Cat 6 or your Cat 5e, or I guess you could even do RG6. Put it in there, spin it around, and it makes a little incision in the cable, and then you could like just kind of twist off the end. So it's basically just a wire stripper. So it's also an untwist tool. There was a thing, was it right here? He has a pair untwister tool right there too. You stick the pairs in there and spin this thing, and it would untwist the pairs. That was actually given to me to review. So I did a review video on that. So here's a mundane tool, use all the time. Measuring tape. Always gotta have your measuring tape. Another one that's kind of mundane, but I do use it sometimes, is multimeter. All right. Probably the most common thing I use this for is if I'm trying to test either to see if something's got voltage on it and how much, or the other one is to test continuity. You can do that with that toner that I showed you earlier, but there's a continuity, where it makes the beep. And sometimes it's really nice when you're trying to do something with your hands, and because it makes a noise. So what's nice is when you have this connected and you've got it in the continuity mode, is that what happens is you can work with your hands and just listen. So as you're moving this thing around and you get continuity, you hear the beep. So it does that in a way that the toner doesn't do as well, because the toner does check for continuity, but it's a visual only kind of connection. Let's see what else I've got. Not necessarily a have to have, but this is handy sometimes just to validate that I'm not crazy. Sometimes I plug things in and they don't work, and I'm like, this is just a plug tester. It's just got little lights to tell you whether the outlet is good or not. It can go a little more further to tell you whether the ground is good or whether the polarities are reversed. I don't really care about that. What matters to me is, is the outlet good or not? So I use that sometimes. And because, sometimes with troubleshooting, that's kind of like troubleshooting 101 is, does it have power? Let's see. Here's another thing. Now, this is not really so much a tool as it is kind of ancillary, but that is my safety glasses. So, gotta wear safety glasses, especially if you're doing any kind of drilling or if you're doing any kind of work in the ceiling. These are kind of cool because they have little, they're bifocals. I don't know if you can see that. They got like a little magnifying section in them. And the reason I like these is because they don't fog up because they got more breathing room. The bigger, larger ones that tend to cover more of your face, they get foggy pretty easily, which is kind of a drag. So, and I actually store them in a old sock so that they don't get scratched up, floating around in my tool bag. I actually put them in the front pouch, but still, I don't want them to get scratched up. Oh, here's something. So this thing is for putting coax ends on it. So what happens is you put your coaxial cable here, you put the barrel end on there, and then you push this down, and it kind of does this thing where it like, so sorry about that loud noise, kind of squeezes the back and the front at the same time, and kind of compression fits that barrel in onto the RG6 cable, which is, RG6 is like, cable TV, that kind of stuff. Oh, here's something. My fiber alert. This has actually come in handy lately. I didn't used to do a lot with fiber, but more the best year or two. Well, no, even the past 2 or 3 years. What this basically does is it's almost like the probe of the toner probe, except it's made for fiber. So it's got a little bitty fiber detector there at the end. And so what happens is you turn it on and then you point it in front of the different outlets that are supposed to have fiber, and it can tell you, which is much easier than doing the whole trick of trying to cup your hands over it and stare in it to see. I don't recommend that. I've heard that won't hurt you, or that myth that, you'll burn your eyes out if you look at a, but it's still, it's just more professional to have a tool, and it's more reliable than trying to cover it up with your hands and look in the dark. So, let's see. Here's something I added to my tool kit recently, which is a thermometer. And at first I said, do I really need something like that? But then I started getting questions about heat, like operating temperatures. And so sometimes this was handy to kind of put in certain places, like in data spaces. One of the things that's common is that oftentimes in big business, data rooms are pretty formal, right? But as you move into medium and small size businesses, the standards for data rooms start to get kind of sloppy. And what you can end up in is in situations where MDFs and IDFs are not adequately not refrigerate, air conditioned. They're not climate controlled as well as they should be. And usually too cold is not really a problem, although you can make it to where it's too cold. But too hot is usually more often what degrades equipment performance. So checking temperature can be important. Let's see. Now, one thing I realized I haven't pulled out yet, which would probably be my top 10, is my flashlights. And I think the reason is because I moved the flashlights to something else. I put the flashlights in a little small tool pouch that I've kind of been using. I've been doing these jobs lately for this guy who's been cabling these rehab. You can call them hospitals, I guess, or they're like rehab centers. That's where I got to go tomorrow. And so I just kind of, because I've been doing the same things over and over, I just kind of made like a little tool pouch with the same 5 or 6 tools. And so the flashlight's still sitting in that. Tape. Now, why orange tape? Well, the reason why orange tape is because typical electrical tape is often black, which then makes it hard to see. But I have found that if you use bright colored tapes, and especially when you're working in the ceiling, sometimes when you're 5 or 10 or more feet away, it's easier to look and see something wrapped in orange tape, like the end of a cable. Sometimes it's just easier to spot. So I've been using orange and yeah, orange tapes. Let's see. Oh, these are good. So these are my, because I'm not a spring chicken anymore, so my eyesight's not as great as it used to be. So not only the magnifiers, but they also have these little lights on them. So yeah, see? Sorry about that. And so those can be really handy when you're working in dark spaces, especially the ceiling, when you're trying to unravel the end of a wire and map out all the pairs. it can be great. So you can not only can you have it magnified, but you'll have the light too. So so use those a lot. There's still a few things in here. I don't, they're not things I reach for all the time. Like, well, I don't know, my inspection mirror. Sometimes, like if you cut a hole in the wall and your cable's not coming down the way you should, sometimes you put the inspection mirror in there and you can kind of look up and see what's going on. And you know, like, was my cable stuck or is there a stud somewhere up there that I can't see? So probably use that about once a month. What else? Um, I used to use this a lot back in the voice days, not so much anymore. But basically, what I would do is plug that into like a voice port, and then these would be free to connect to whatever, just to to make some kind of a bridge. The other thing I would do in reverse sometimes, I'll tell you when I used to use these a lot is back in the 90s when modems were kind of the thing, is my laptop had a modem built in. And so I would go into a equipment room and I would find a 66 block with some dial tone on it. And I would clip these onto the dial tone and I would plug that into my modem port on my laptop. And then, because that was kind of how it was done back then. If you wanted to get access to the internet or email or whatever, that's kind of the way it was done with a modem. This is something I just recently got and I haven't had a chance to use it. And it's kind of cool. And I want to do a video on it, but figured out I haven't figured out how to use this in a video yet, but it is a AC detector. So if you turn it on, what it's designed to do, electricians use these all the time, is let me see, like you take like a wire. See if I can get this up here. So take like this extension cord right here. Okay, it's got voltage in it. So when you how's it do? Do you push? Was it push the button? There's a thing you push and it tells you if there's. Let's see. Oh yeah. See, it tells you if there's voltage. Now it's got a range thing on it too. So it's not doing what I thought it was going to do. But it basically just tells you if there's energy on the line, if something's hot or not. I'm not sure why it's not activating for this. I must be doing something wrong. But anyway, but it alerts you. And typically the ones the electricians use are just kind of all or nothing. But this thing actually has like a percentage thing on it, which I thought was pretty cool. Which can tell you like how much power, not voltage wise, but kind of like the intensity of the power. So, like I said, I haven't gotten to know it well enough yet. But it's great. And you go in a situation where you're trying to figure out, I'm near something like electrical wires or something. I want to know if they're hot. And so you hold this up against it. And if it turns red and starts beeping, then that means that there's voltage on the line. But anyway, maybe more on that later. I need to play with that some more and do a video on him. All right. Well, I think I'm got most. Here's another one. Yeah, I forgot about this. Yeah, magnet grabber. It's just like a little magnet on the end. Sometimes you drop things way down low. You can't reach them. You just reach in and use it to pick up like screws or nut or whatever. That happens when you're working on equipment sometimes, as you drop something into like say you got the cover of a server off or something like that, and of course it's powered off, and maybe you're trying to do something, you drop the nut, you can't reach it with your fingers, but you can take this and you can reach down in there and grab it. Let me do one more look, see if there's anything else. There's all kinds of little weird odds and ends in here, but I don't want this live stream to go forever because we're already kind of over time already as it is. Yeah, I think I'll kind of leave it at that. So let's go take a look and see what we got for questions in the comments section. Let me put the camera back a second. I'm gonna do this slow so I don't get you seasick here. Okay. Put that back here. Okay. Get that back where I want it. Okay. All right, a little bit more. There we go. Okay, let's see. Sorry to ask something to quite an old post, may not know if you have it. Oh, asking about the AC 2100. Yeah, that's already over. There was a video I did. God, that was, what was that, 2 years, three years ago, where a vendor had sent me a router and so we had a contest and somebody picked the numbers and that was the person who won the router and sent it to them. So I wasn't crazy about that because I kind of felt like the vendor had asked the manufacturer had asked me to do that. And I kind of didn't like that. I didn't like giving out a prize as part of the the video thing. I feel like it's like bribing for views or something like that. I just didn't feel like that was I don't know, it just kind of rubbed me kind of wrong. And not to say that I won't ever do something like that, but I didn't like the vendor telling me to do. I didn't like the manufacturer telling me, "Hey, you need to, just to let you in a little bit on how this works with influencer economy. When you reach a certain level of presence online, you start getting approached by these companies that want you to stump their product, right? They want you to do a review video. And then they usually the typical incentive is we'll give you the product for free if you'll do the video. Well, when you're kind of new in the business, it sounds like a great idea. Like, oh, wow, great, free stuff. But after a while, it's kind of like, look, free stuff doesn't buy groceries, it doesn't pay bills. So then usually you graduate to a point where you kind of realize, look, if I'm going to do these reviews, then I want there to be some kind of financial compensation for me. And I tell you, I mean, you have to say that. YouTube's terms are such that if you make a video where you've either received something for free or you're being paid, you have to say that. And so I usually either say it out loud or there's like a little banner at the bottom of my videos that say, hey, this was sponsored by, like I did a lot of stuff for Zycel Networks back about 2 years ago. I really enjoyed working with them, and I hope to do some more stuff with them again in the future. But in all those, pretty much all those videos, I pretty much said, if it was a paid deal, I said it was a paid, I put it in there. It was sponsored by Zycel Networks. So anyway, but that was a long-winded explanation about why the rock space thing is dead and gone. So anyway, a little quiet today. Looks like we only got 2 people on. I don't see much in the comments section. I will take this video and retire it into the regular, which what I usually do is after these are over, they get saved in the live section. And then I usually will go back and kind of trim off like the beginning or something like that, just so you can kind of get straight into the meat of it. Especially since on this one, I spent the first 3 or 4 minutes just kind of talking to myself with the sound off. I'm sure that was kind of confusing to a few of you. Anyway, well, I appreciate you stopping by. I'll wrap it up, and I will plan on trying to do this again next Saturday. Till then, good luck with your week.